What's good, what's good, what's good? It's your boy Micah back at it again. Please excuse the noise in the background. I'm currently at the mall, chilling outside apparently. Breathing in this good old oxygen, you know what I'm saying? Today's video topic is going to be about a couple of things. It's going to be about sympathetic magic, shapeshifting, and some other stuff that we're going to talk about. But before I get into it, I kind of want to make something clear and clarify why I'm doing these videos. I'm doing these videos to not just show you all vague techniques or whatever, but to give you all the principles of what's behind all this so that you can develop some real mastery and do what you fucking will with the knowledge and the info. Because knowledge is what? Power, right? And how you use that knowledge is power. But most importantly is the level of understanding and overstanding that you have with the knowledge, so you can understand it from all angles and therefore have a complete view that's not biased, so to speak. Now, naturally, I'm going to have my own bias for this shit, but you get you get and understand what I'm saying to you. So, without further ado, let's get into it. If you go through various grimoires, books, and all that good shit on magic, you're going to see not only sigils of spirits, but their descriptions, and some of these descriptions are going to tell you how these entities came about, how they came into existence, the means by which they were fucking killed, or the means by which they ascended, that kind of thing. What I want to give to you guys, you laymen, you beginning necromancers, etc., is that the principle behind this, the secret, is that if you can understand the mechanics of how a particular spirit, especially in necromancy, came to be and how they came to die in some cases, then you can use that same principle to not only control them, but to fucking take those same powers for yourself without putting harm to the spirit. This goes into things like shape-shifting, making different charms. For example, in like really deep fucking Haitian voodoo, there are ways you can make charms to become a loup-garou or a werewolf. Astrally, you take on those traits, the mentality, the abilities, etc. that can bolster your magic, your spells, your rituals, all that good shit. And so it's the same thing for various entities such as golems and freaking wraiths, that kind of thing. Some of these entities have gone through extreme levels of sadness, pain, misery, etc. due to other people and their shit that was done to them, and thus that's how they ascended, or in some cases descended. Now, this kind of goes into our next topic about thought forms and how to create them in a necromantic context. If you are familiar with the concept of thought forms, egregores, etc., you know that basically, short and simple, they're created out of intense concentration and desire for something, whether good or negative. Sometimes it's created by the subconscious desires and repressed emotions, energies, etc., harboring within a person's shadow. And this egregore or thought form comes to life with various degrees of sentience, and it goes out and does things either on behalf of the will of the person that created it, or sometimes of its own accord if it has enough energy and is powerful enough. The same way you create a thought form is the same way you can create any other kind of spirit. I'm going to say that again. The same way you create a thought form is the same way you can create any other kind of spirit. You simply need to understand how that spirit works and how its mechanics are designed that give life to its existence. For example, creating a golem, whether energetically or otherwise, is going to be totally different from creating a demonic entity or a wraith or a ghost, that kind of thing. And if you understand the means by which they met their demise, you can understand the means by which to take their powers for yourself. Now, let's put this into context, give it some practical example. Working with a fucking golem. The thing about golems is that they are not just servitors made out of fucking clay. Don't let that Jewish propaganda fool you. And I mean just those words. A golem, by its very nature, is something necromantic and undeathly regardless of the material used. In Jewish lore, we see that they crafted the golem out of clay. Some legends and variations of it say there was an actual person that was used as a fucking golem. Either way it goes is that magic was used to give life to something that was inanimate, giving life to death and undeath to life, that kind of thing, bringing it into a new state of existence, which is really a core lesson of necromancy in general. Is it goes beyond just messing with death and undeath. You're bringing something into a new state of being, and you're learning how to transmute the energies accordingly. That way, no harm is dealt to you as the magician. Now, you have different kinds of golems, such as human, those made of clay, wood, or whatever the fuck else. And you also have allocryptic golems as well. Allocryptic meaning it might be something that has the head of a dog, the torso of a man, blazes arms, fucking bull legs. You see what I mean? That kind of thing. Whatever the medium is, especially if it's just on the astral and energetic, its function is to protect and to destroy. Two sides of the same coin. It is programmed to do what you desire it to do. So in a way, yeah, you can look at it as a servitor, but in reality it's not. It's a machine, a whole deus ex machina in the personification of an entity, and it goes out and attaches to your victim, your enemy, or your object, and it acts as a ward against things, people, energies, or circumstances that could potentially harm the thing it is attached to. This is very similar to where in Haitian Vodou, you do a in tranquil spirit kind of work, where you take a spirit of a dead lover or a spirit of the dead in general, let's say died of sickness of AIDS, and you send it to attach to the victim. And when you do this, if the victim does not come back within a certain amount of time to their lover, for example, they're going to get fucked up. They're going to start experiencing the same symptoms the spirit of the dead experienced when they had that disease. That disease will literally start manifesting in them. It's the same exact concept here with the golem. Now, when you're working with these thought forms, egregores, etc., when you attach them to a person, as long as you keep giving it energy in some way, shape, form, or fashion, it's going to continue doing its job until either that job is done and there's no more need for it, or until you stop giving it life, you stop giving it energy. Now, from a necromantic context, how would you go about doing this? Death essence is the first step. It is the raw material. It is the metaphorical clay that you're using to craft this thing. Now, let's say you know of a entity, demonic entity, or even celestial entity, angelic or whatnot, that can fucking cause heart attacks or disease. You understand that this being does X, Y, Z. It came to life through this means, etc. You can create this energetic golem in the same way and literally have not so much a copy, but an exact semblance of that same entity. You send it forth and it does its job. Now, you could take this another route where you do invocations like a symbiotic possession with the golem that you created and thus attain its abilities, that kind of thing. It's able to live within you and feed off of you to sustain itself, and it creates a feedback loop, kind of like a fucking ecosystem. And it grows, you transform, it transforms, that kind of thing. Very similar to the symbiote in the fucking Venom movie. You can also create charms, just like you would in Haitian Vodou for transforming into a loup-garou. You would create charms to transform into that particular entity whose power you desire. And you start slowly taking on those traits and abilities of that entity as your own resonance with it increases. You can do this with wraiths, shadow beings, light shadows, as shadows can dwell both in darkness and in light. Other things like that, you know? You can even do this with other people. That's where shit gets interesting. Let's say you know someone who has great knowledge and power concerning wealth sorcery. You can create a charm to not necessarily become like them, but to transmute your astral body to where you can have those same qualities without necessarily taking them from the other person if you're not trying to go the whole vampiric route. If you are trying to go the whole vampiric route, then there are ways to As you pull out the life essence from a person, you can pull out their qualities, traits, strength of will, their joy, their happiness, all that good shit, and take that shit for yourself, you know? So there's many different ways to go about doing this. What I would suggest, again, knowledge is power. Understand the principle and the mechanics behind what you're doing before you attempt to do it. Now, yes, sometimes the best route is experimentation. However, especially concerning necromancy, know the rules before you try to break the rules or create new rules. That way, you know the proper parameters, you know that XYZ can happen if you don't follow the instructions, and you're not caught off guard by your own magic and the product of your own sorcery. Now, as necromancers, we do not know every fucking thing. However, our minds are able to conceptualize what could happen from this, any backlash, any things affecting world events, you know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So be wise and use wisdom when you're doing what you're doing. Now, as you work with this and you master it, you start to function on a more Masonic level, like mentally. You start to understand why things are labeled the way they are labeled, because they are labels. And you start to understand that if you can perceive and gain an overstanding of how something was created, then you can manifest in the same way that thing would manifest if it were in your place. I'm going to say that again. If you can understand how a thing came to be in creation, then you can understand how to manifest whatever you desire in the same way that thing would manifest if it was in your place. This goes from the most lowest objects in the mineral kingdom to the highest objects on the astral, even gods. If you can understand how a god has gained its dominion, the mechanics of its magic, then you can take not only your devotion to that deity to the next level, but you can learn its secrets and use that for yourself and literally become a god, because for all intents and purposes, you're using the very same means that God uses to create its effects and dominion, you see? So when it goes into shape-shifting and shit, normally what happens is you either invoke the being, or if it's like a spirit animal, you invoke the spirit animal, and your astral body transforms from there. You can roam on the astral with it. You can keep its powers in the physical body, its strength, etc. But there comes a time when you stop using that and you simply focus your mind and let your astral body transmute itself from there into whatever it is you require for the moment. That's where some real mastery comes in, because not only is that slightly difficult, but it takes a lot of, I don't want to say concentration, you just have to know what you're doing. That way you don't make a mistake, because when you're working on the fly, you have so many variables going on at the moment. You need to make sure you're not distracted. And like when you're trying to transform into a fucking wolf, for example, you get distracted and turn into a fucking tree branch. You feel me? Astrally, that kind of thing. You don't gain any more power. You just do some random shit. You feel me? So it's necessary to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, and most importantly, why you're doing it, because your intent, above all, affects your sorcery, your magic. And if your intent is not concentrated through the mind, the mental body, and you're distracted and it's impure, you're going to get impure results. Like attracts like. You feel me? So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you guys about. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, hit me up on Discord, comment below. I'll try to address them. And like, share, subscribe, do all the other typical crap I'm supposed to say. And have a good day. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.